Hey guys, Jared James here, and excited to be with you guys again, talking about a topic called the daily blueprint, which is something that I think so many people struggle with, whether you're a brand new agent, whether you've been doing this for a while, just kind of like, what should I be doing every day? Or I feel like I'm doing a lot every day, but not being as productive as I want to be. So excited about doing this. If you would like the slides, I'm not going to show slides on this training because I want you focused here and listening, but we do have slides available for you. If you would like to have access to those, just send an email to yes@jaredjamestoday.com. You're always free to ask me questions and connect as well. Go to connectwithjared.com, connectwithjared, Jared.com. Connect on Instagram and Facebook and Snapchat and YouTube and these places, the podcast. But you can send me a DM through somewhere like Instagram or Facebook, and I'll answer any questions you have personally. And I think I may get a lot of questions on this particular topic because it's one that is, it's so important, right? I want you to think about something as I really kind of get into this, and make sure that you're taking a lot of notes today, because this is one of those where you're going to want to take a lot of notes. Why is it that people in your marketplace with the exact same price point, hours, like everything else, that there are people in your marketplace that work the same number of hours, work in the same price points, work in everything, and literally make a different income, right? The people who do the most transactions, the people who do the least number of transactions, generally work the same number of hours, right? It's not because of a lack of effort, but it's because all hours are not created equal, right? Most of our issue isn't that we're not working hard enough, it's that we're focused on the wrong activities, okay? The person who gets on a treadmill and runs 3.11 miles and the person who goes and runs a 5K exert the same amount of energy. One actually ends up somewhere and one is still exactly where they started, okay? And so I use that example because when I go do events and I do stuff like this, I'm well aware that there's a lot of people in attendance there that are doing the treadmill of business. Like, they're working hard, they're just not seeing the results. And it's important for us to understand that activity does not always equal achievement. Like, what we actually do with our time and the actual things that we're doing matter. And one of the reasons why so many of us struggle with this and get addicted to doing so many unproductive activities every day is because we have an addiction to other people's approval. As much as we say that we don't, we do. And it's why so many of you are spending so much time every day putting out fires all day and doing things for clients and family members and friends that really you have no business doing, but you're just addicted to their approval, okay? I mean, think of it like this, guys. Have you ever had a day when you were just completely open and you had so much time open, and you finally looked at your list of to-dos and you're like, I'm gonna get all of these to-dos done and I'm gonna whatever, and you got to the end of that day and you can get one of those to-dos done? Ever had that kind of a day? Did it happen today? Did it happen yesterday? It probably happens on a regular basis, and it's because we're allowing other people and clients and friends and other people to dictate our schedule. And yet one of the things that I want you to remember is that, you know, we get what we're committed to, but we also get what we tolerate. Okay, that's an important point to understand. We get what we're committed to, but we also get what we tolerate. And if you don't respect your schedule, your clients won't either. When you're asking questions to new buyers and otherwise and saying, when are you available? When are you available to see it? You're already setting the tone that whenever you're available, I'm available, because I can do whatever. I don't want to lose you as a client. And that's a terrible way to start off a relationship, okay? So we're going to talk a little bit about today, in the brief amount of time I have with you, with things like time blocking and KPIs and BUTs and, you know, all of this kind of stuff. But I need you to understand something you've heard for a long time, but you may not be living this way, which is that if it's not on your calendar, it doesn't exist, okay? If it's not on your calendar, it doesn't exist. I'm going to tell you that I have, God, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 different calendars that a bunch of different people have access to that all sync up and go on one calendar for me, because I legitimately have calendars that let me know when I'm, and they're all on one calendar. We just color code them, and different people have options to be able to edit them. But like, I have ones that, you know, are for my work appointments. I have ones for travel. I have ones for family. Like, when are we doing family time and doing those kind of things? I have a bunch of different ones because everything I do goes on my schedule, okay? Because I have so much to do. And the beauty in that is that I not only know when I'm working or when I need to be committed to something, but I also know when I'm not, okay? And time blocking is a crucial part of that, because what time blocking essentially does is it lets you know when you're on and when you're off. It lets your brain know when it needs to be on, when it can kind of take a break and focus on the thing at hand, because you know you've handled all the other things that you needed to handle. Okay. One of the main ways that we learn to time block is by knowing our numbers. Okay. One of the main ways we know when we're working, when we're not, is simply by knowing our numbers. Like, if you don't know the number of appointments that it takes to create the number of transactions you need to create the income that you need, then you're just running around every day trying to be as busy as you can and then hoping to God you end in a good place. But when you run your numbers and you know your conversion ratios, and you know that 50% of the people you go and do a listing presentation for, and 50% of the buyers you go and meet end up working with you, and you need this many transactions to create this much revenue, then you know to ultimately create 50 transactions, you need 100 appointments. And you know that if you take 2 weeks vacation, so you're gonna work for 50 weeks, that means to hit your numbers, you literally just need to create 2 appointments a week to make that 50 transaction goal work. Like, sounds simple, but so many of you aren't doing it right now. And once you know those numbers and you know how many appointments you need, and those are all that matter, and as long as you get those appointments, you're going to hit your goal, and then anything you want to do with the rest of your time is completely up to you. But once you know that, you now know what the activities are that you should be focused on to hit those appointments. Okay. And those are what are called your KPIs, your key performance indicators. And too many of you don't even know what that is. Like, you literally, I say KPI and you're like, what is a KPI? Like, you have no idea, right? Key performance indicators. Key performance indicators are those things that actually let us know what it is that we need to be doing every single day. They're things like marketing. What are you doing from a marketing perspective to create business? There are things like practice. Yes, practice. Because when you practice, I did another one on here on lead conversion, and you know the words to use and you know what to say, you convert at a higher level. And saying it the right way, tonality, all of this matters. Practice matters. And the third KPI you have to make sure that you have on your calendar at all times is setting appointments, right? When you look at marketing, setting appointments, and practice, which is going to help you convert, those are KPIs, because without them, without the ability to be creating new business, every day you're not doing that, you're stepping one day closer to going out of business, okay? Or going on that roller coaster that so many of you think is just real estate, but the truth is it's because you're not focused in your calendar. You're addicted to other people's approval. So on your calendar belongs your KPIs, your key performance indicators, marketing, practice, setting appointments, those things. But you also have to have on your calendar things like BUTs, best uses of time, right? And the difference is that KPIs are specific to business, but BUTs, best uses of time, can be about business, but there's so much more, okay? Your best use of time takes into account things like, what is my role to others, okay? So when I became a dad, that meant that my role to others meant I go to practices, and I go to games, and I go to math competitions, and I go to dinner dates with them, and I go to, because of my role to them. It has nothing to do with what makes me more money. It's not a KPI. It's a BUT, best use of time, based on my role to them. The other thing I take into account when I'm trying to figure out my BUT is that I figure out my responsibility to self. What is my responsibility to myself? That's why I do, for those of you that follow on Instagram and Snapchat and Facebook and all these places, you know, I do all the time the did you sweat todays, right? Because I'm no good to others if I'm not taking care of myself, right? So that belongs on my calendar. Like, it belongs on something that non-negotiable, gets done, not if I have time. Right? Something to keep in mind when you're making a calendar is to understand that emotions will mislead you, okay? If you wait until you're tired throughout the day to decide if you're gonna prospect that day, you won't do it, right? If you wait until you see if you're tired or not to see if you should exercise, you won't do it, right? When I ask people why they aren't doing the things that they say that they value, do you know what I hear all the time? You know the most common excuse I hear, and you guys know this? I don't have time. That's the excuse. I don't have time. I don't have, when the truth of the matter is, time is all we have, right? You guys have heard it before. We all have the same amount of time. So the question is not, do you have time? Because you have time. I mean, if somebody said to you, hey, I want to list my house. It's a $4 million house. I want to sell it for $1.5 million, but I want to get it on tonight. Would you say I don't have time to come over there? You'd find time, right? So the question is not whether we have time. The question is whether we are time blocking or waiting to see what comes up first. Are we booking out our schedule and actually, scheduling things that need to get done, or are we waiting to see what else comes up first, right? That's really what the question is, okay? There's always enough time for whatever you're committed to. Nobody's ever got the winning lottery ticket and said, I don't have time to turn it in. So really it comes down to what we're committed to, what we value. That's really what it comes down to. But one of the main things that I want you guys to understand is that doing what you love for a living doesn't mean loving what you do every single day, right? You've heard me say this before. Doing what you love for a living doesn't mean loving what you do every day. I don't like traveling to go to events. Okay, I love doing events. I don't like traveling to go to them. You may not like appointment setting. You may not like lead creating. You may not like practicing. You may not like these things. Doing what you love for a living doesn't mean loving what you do every day. If you want to get the result that so many other people are after, you have to commit to these things, okay? And when it comes to something like that and saying, hey, we don't just say to people, who aren't respecting our schedule, hey, when are you available? And then we make ourselves available. You need to understand that I do understand the reality of our industry, and I do understand that you've got to work off hours sometimes, and I do understand a lot of those things. What I'm saying is don't just give it away because you think it's normal, right? People make decisions based on the options that are given them. I used to use an example where I would say to people, if I wanted to know what was coming if I wanted to know what was coming a mile down the road, would I ask a giraffe or a turtle? And everybody sits there and goes, oh, a giraffe. I talked to a giraffe. Why has nobody in all the years I've used that example ever said I wouldn't talk to an animal? Because people make decisions based on the options that are in front of them, period, okay? And so what I really want for you guys to do, and I want you to take note of this, is, and I'll actually put on a page, if you send an email to that yes@jaredjamestoday.com, I'm gonna give you a calendar you can use that breaks this down that we use with a lot of our students. And for 1 week, I want you to take the different sections, the different subject areas of showings, exercise, meals, coaching calls, prospecting, follow-up, meetings, family time, admin work, and future planning, okay? So showings, exercise, these are all on the calendar too. I'm gonna give you guys, for all of you guys to shoot the email to yes@jaredjamestoday.com, okay? Showings, exercise, meals, coaching calls, prospecting, follow-up, meetings, family time, admin work, future planning, okay? I want you for 1 week to actually set what your perfect schedule would be and put those things in there when you do them, when you exercise, when you think about the future, when you go to meetings, when you show homes, when you do administrative work, when you do, for 1 week, I want you to give that a try and see just how addicted to our unproductive patterns that we are right now, because that's really going to show you just how addicted we are to our unproductive patterns, because we're like, that sounds great, I'm going to do that. Watch on day 1 how much you're going to be going, I can't stick to that. I can't. Because we have developed unproductive patterns and we are addicted to those. No different than somebody who gets addicted to sugar and then tries to eat good, goes, but I got to have that. I got to have it. The body starts calling for it. It's the same thing, but just like that sugar, it's not good for you. And when you make this schedule that you're going to keep now for a week straight, give me your word you're going to do that. In fact, send me a message, let me know that you're doing it. Send me a DM on Instagram or something, let me know you're doing that. I want you to make sure that you have set time where you have freedom, like for things to move around and for things to go haywire when you take care of them, and time to just think and relax, and and one way you do that, guys, is don't think that just because you're putting something in your calendar, it defaults to an hour, that you have to set an appointment for an hour. If an appointment should only take 15 minutes, have it take 15 minutes. If it should only take 8 minutes, put it in your calendar for 8 minutes. That's what my team does with me. Like, we make 8-minute appointments sometimes. Because the problem is that if you set an hour-long appointment for something that was only going to be a 17-minute meeting, human nature, you and that other person, will make it last for an hour. Like, what you will do is you will get on and you'll start going back and forth and shooting the breeze and talking about the weather, and then you'll look up, realize you're 43 minutes in, you need 17 minutes, and then you'll get down to business, and you will have wasted those other 43 minutes that could have been used for productive time doing something else. The other thing that we want to take, and the note I really want you to understand, is that when it comes to calendar and it comes to being overloaded and, you know, whatever, learn to delegate. Like, I had to learn this the tough way, guys. Learn to delegate. There is never too much business. There's only too few people. There's never too many leads. There's just too few people. And what gets you to a certain place, that drive, that hunger, that whatever it takes, just rolling people over, whatever, that got you to the place that you needed people, what got you there is exactly what will keep you from going to the next level. Because now you can't roll over people. You can't, like, now you need to learn to delegate and let people make mistakes and start to use at first a virtual assistant, a transaction coordinator, whatever it happens to be, and you start to delegate and realize that people may not be doing things exactly the way that you do them, but they're getting done and you're not a part of them. We do a thing called the Mastermind in Vegas. I think we're going to do one this summer, where literally people pay $5,000 a pop. We have 10 to 15 people. We put them a suite in Vegas with me and one of our top coaches, who was my first ever one-on-one student. We sit there with jeans on and our computers open, and we just break down over 2 days what needs to happen, what systems need to be in place, like all of this stuff in order to grow to the level to have a business that ultimately you run the business doesn't run you, where you can start running a business instead of running around. And one of the stories Mark told, who I do those with one time, was he said that I told him a quote when he first started in the business way back when, which I don't even remember saying, but he gave me credit for it, and it sounds like something I would have said. He said that I told him that if you being involved in a task, whatever it is, being involved doesn't move the needle, you need to start moving towards replacing yourself in that situation, in that task. So anything that you're involved in, that you being involved doesn't move the needle, you need to start looking at, how do I replace myself in those situations, okay? And, you know, a sad fact about our world, in our country, for example, is that 22 out of 28 million small businesses in our country have exactly 0 employees. They're not running a business, they're running around, okay? And people will say things like, especially when it comes to their calendar and trying to manage it and what they should be doing every day, I don't want to manage people. I don't want to, guys, you're managing people, they're just called your clients right now. The only difference is you don't have control over them like you would if you had people working with you, okay? So for some of you to get your calendar in order, you've got to start looking at things like an assistant, a virtual assistant, a buyer's agent, a marketing person, an ISA. You got to start looking at what's my next step, right? I've got videos on YouTube that talk about how to build a team and those kind of things. You got to start looking at my next step. And if that's you right now, I want to make sure you understand this. This isn't like a maybe thing. This isn't like, we'll try this tomorrow. I'm going to promise you tomorrow never comes. Do it now, okay? If you are waiting until you slow down to ultimately start taking control over your schedule, it will never happen. I promise you that. It will never happen if you're waiting until you slow down, okay? Change is never a matter of ability. It's a matter of motivation, period, okay? If I told you to prospect every day and told you to put it on your calendar, whatever, you may or may not do it. If I told you to prospect every day, but the first day that you don't prospect, your child is going to get run over by a car, you would prospect in fact, you probably prospect twice a day just to make sure it counted. It's never a matter of ability. It's always a matter of motivation, okay? So I've given you some tips here on, to follow the specific things that should go on your calendar, what a KPI is, what a BUT, a best use of time is. But now it's up to you to say, not tomorrow, today. I'm going to work that perfect schedule today, and I'm going to start seeing how that works. I want to hear how it goes for you guys. As I said, if you want that calendar, you want some of the training that goes with it, send an email to yes@jaredjamestoday.com. Make sure as well, go to connectwithjared.com. Send me a message on Instagram, DM me on Instagram, on Facebook, on Snapchat, any one of these places. Make sure you're following the podcast where I do a lot of training for you as well. Can't wait to see you guys in person again. I hope you enjoyed this.